Welcome to the first part of paper 2. I'm hoping to take you up to question 9 with this. Question 1 to question 9. You will need a calculator for the calculator paper course. And here is my Casio calculator, and a quick shift 93 equals AC resets my calculator and makes sure that there's a D just indicated here. So let's get started with question 1. Question 1, we are given the probability for German, the probability for Russian, and the probability for French. And the question says that we have to work out the probability that we speak or study Spanish. The first job here, of course, is to add together the probabilities, the three probabilities that we have been given. And on our calculator, because we're in a calculator exam, of course, so we do every calculation on the calculator. And that gives us 0.85. You'll pick up the first mark if you show the examiner that you know that all probabilities, all outcomes add up to 1. So 1 minus the probabilities that are already in play. And that, of course, gives us 0.15. There are 800 students at the college. Work out the number of students who study German. What we do here is we use the probability that you study German and multiply that by the 800 students. You'll get 1 mark if you show those two being multiplied together. Again, calculator exam, all calculations in a calculator exam should be produced on a calculator, and that gives us 160 for the second mark. Margaret is on holiday in France. She buys an English newspaper and the cost is €5. However, in England the same newspaper costs £2.50. The exchange rate is £1 gives 1.16 euros. Work out the difference between the cost of the newspaper in France and the cost of the newspaper in England. There are actually two ways of doing this. The first way is to convert the pounds into euros by multiplying by the exchange rate. This gives us 2.9, which of course is €2.90. We then do a difference. You'll get 1 mark for showing 290. You'll get 1 mark for showing the difference. And the difference is 5 minus 2.9 gives us €2.10. So that is our first answer that is acceptable for the third mark. So 1, 2, 3 marks. However, the alternative method is to turn the €5 back into pounds. 5 divided by 1.16. This time we divide by the exchange rate to get back into pounds, and that comes out to be 4.310344. Press your SD button again, and you can clearly see that's 4.31, not 4.32. That'll get you 1 mark. You then again do the difference. And that gives you a difference of £1.81, which again would give you a third mark. So there are two routes to the answer there. This route and this route both are acceptable. So we come on to question 3 now. X is greater than minus 3. Show this inequality on a number line. You can see minus 3 is obviously the key number in play here, so a circle drawn at minus 3. If you shade that in, you lose the first mark. If you leave it unshaded, it's worth 1 mark. We don't shade it because we're not allowed to equal the number that we're referencing. We are greater than this number, so an arrow pointing to the right will get you a second mark. Use your ruler if you want to make it look a little neater. Part B, we've got to solve the inequality. The biggest mistake students make here is they stop using the inequality symbol and they use the equals symbol. So just drawing a couple of them there, and I would even reference it in the answer now because an equals there costs you a mark. A plus 36 becomes a minus 36. We're in a calculator exam, so I do 8 minus 36 to get the minus 28. A times by 7 becomes a divide by 7. Again, calculator exam, I'll set that up, minus 28 divided by 7, and that gives you minus 4. So y is less than or equal to minus 4. Do not use an equal sign there. So 1 mark for seeing 7y is less than or equal to minus 28, and 1 mark, of course, for seeing y is less than or equal to minus 4. We now move on to question 4, and this is a trigonometry question. How do I know? I know you're all asking. Well, there's an angle of interest and it's a right angle triangle. So we'll definitely be using saw, car, tower. If we create an arrow, we can see that the 90-degree angle is pointing across at the hypotenuse. The angle of interest is looking at the opposite side, and the final side is the adjacent. We're definitely interested in the hypotenuse and we're definitely interested in the adjacent. We have no interest in the opposite in this question. So removing the opposites shows us this is going to be a cosine question. Cosine theta is equal to the adjacent over the hypotenuse. We get our first mark when we start to substitute the values in. Our unknown angle is given as x. Our adjacent is given as 6.4 and our hypotenuse is given as 9.6. And there is our first mark. Our second mark is for showing that the cosine needs to be moved to the other side of the equation and becomes cosine to the minus 1, also known as the inverse cosine function. To get that function on your calculator, you press shift and cosine to get the cos to the minus 1. Pressing your fraction key there, you can now put the 6.4 for the adjacent, the 9.6 for the hypotenuse, navigate out, close your bracket, press equals, and write your full calculator display. We're rounding to 1 decimal place, so 1 rounding number, so 48.1 or 48.2, the rounding number rounds us up to 48.2. Question 5. There are only yellow pencils, red pencils, green pencils or blue pencils in a box. The pie chart gives the information about the numbers of pencils in each colour. What fraction of the total number of pencils are red? You can see a 90-degree angle here, so we know that this section is 90 out of a possible 360. Our calculator will happily simplify that fraction for you, and 1/4 is the answer we're looking for. We don't want any other fraction, we'll only accept 1/4. In the pie chart, the angle for yellow is twice the angle for green. Well, the angle for green is x, so if we double that, we'll get 2x. There are 108 pencils in the box. Work out the number of blue pencils in the box. So 108 pencils in total in here. If you look at the blue sector, it's been referenced as 150 degrees, which means we can now write a fraction to represent the blue pencils. 150 degrees out of a total possible 360 degrees. That is the fraction of blue pencils in the box. Multiply that by the 108. We only get the mark for the final answer here. The calculator states 45, and there's all the marks for question 5. Question 6 now. Draw the graph of y equals 4x minus 2. You can see that the x values go from minus 2 to 3. So I'm going to quickly create a table of values using the integer values from minus 2 to 3. I've got to now find the y values. If I put a 0 in here, 4 times 0 is 0, and then I take away 2. If I put a 1 in here for the x value, I substitute a 1 in, I get 4 times 1 is 4, and then I take off 2, which gives me 2. 4 2s are 8, minus 2 is 6. 4 3s are 12, minus 2 is 10. I now can see that this sequence is going up in 4s. Up in 4 here, up in 4 here, up in 4 here. If I reverse that, it's going down in 4, down in 4, down in 4, down in 4, and down in 4. Now I've just done that from a non-calculator point of view in case it comes up on the non-calculator exam. However, we are in the calculator exam. So 4 brackets, close brackets, minus 2. I can use this function on the calculator. I'm using the brackets to signify the x, which I'm going to substitute different values into. I'm going to substitute the minus 2 in first to see what it generates. Of course, we know it generates minus 10. It's just nice to check it. I can then press the back key, delete that, and substitute minus 1. to generate the minus 6. Again, putting the 0 in for minus 2, 1 in for the positive 2, 2 in for the positive 6, and of course finally the 3 in for the positive 10. So I've checked everything. It was a calculator exam. I could have done that in the first place. I now plot these coordinate points. Minus 2, minus 10, minus 2, minus 10, minus 1, minus 6, minus 1, minus 6, 0, minus 2, 0, so I don't go left or right, I stay in 0 and I go up or down, minus 2 there, 1 and 2, 2 and 6, 2 and 6, 3 and 10. Now you'll get 1 point from plotting the points from your table. You may pick up a mark here if you've made a mistake but still plotted correctly. But the third mark, and a lot of students find this very interesting, is for actually drawing the line. The third mark for drawing the line. Question 7 now. We've got 6e plus 5f plus e minus 3f. Sometimes you can make a little bit of a story. 6 Everton fans and 5 Fulham fans. Another Everton fan joins them, but 3 Fulham fans disappear. 6e plus an e is 7e. 5 Fulham fans minus the 3 leaves you with 2 Fulham fans, and they are still positive. I doubt very much that 2 marks will be given in the exam for that question, so I'm going to reduce it to just the 1 mark for having both parts correct. And so we come to the last question in this section, and we have a circular pond with a path around it, also known as mathematical annulus. The pond has a radius of 5 and the path has a width of 1, which effectively means there's a radius of 6 meters there. This is definitely working area of a circle. Formula is area of a circle is pi r squared. You can see that there's a large circle in play and a slightly smaller circle in play. Either site of either of them will pick up your first mark. So I'm using the radius of 6 for this one and the radius of 5 for this one. On your calculator, shift to get pi on the Casio. We have to press shift and this button here to get the pi symbol, and then we can multiply that by 6 squared, and that throws back at us 36 pi. Don't press the SD button just yet. If you do the same over here, 5 squared is 25. The calculator is going to throw back at you 25 pi. Again, we're still on 1 mark for all of this. You get the second mark if you start to say that this needs removing from this. And I can do that in terms of pi. Now, if you've pressed the SD button, and if you've got 113.09733355 minus 25 pi, which is 78.53, as long as you're showing that subtraction, you're going to get the second mark. This is the easiest way of dealing with it. 36 pi minus 25 pi. So I can enter that on the calculator, and of course some of you may have already guessed this, it is going to give an answer of 11 pi. We're still stuck on 2 marks. Press your SD button now because we're near the end. Write your full calculator display and round it to 3 significant figures. So 1, 2, 3 significant figures and a rounding number. So 34.5 or 34.6, you can see that the rounding number is a 5, so we're going to round it up. 34.6, and that's meters squared. We now commit that, of course, in the bottom part there, making sure our decimal point is very clear to see and our answer is very clear. Thank you for watching part 1. I'll see you in part 2 of the calculator exam.